My phone buzzed angrily on the kitchen counter. It was December 20th, and the family group chat was in chaos. My brother, Peter, sent a picture of a gigantic turkey. My sister-in-law, Lauren, listed 3 different pies she was baking. Then, her text appeared. "Amelia, what's on the menu for the sad singles supper this year?" "Grilled cheese." Peter replied instantly with a string of laughing crying emojis. My chest tightened. They had already uninvited me from the big family dinner. Now they were just rubbing salt in the wound. I didn't type a response. I looked at my own notepad, open next to my coffee mug. My menu was written in careful script: chestnut soup, truffle ravioli, herb-roasted pork loin. To them, it was a pathetic joke. To me, it was a carefully crafted masterpiece. I worked as a project coordinator at Evergreen Events, a boutique firm that planned fancy corporate parties. My entire day was spent thinking about food for other people. I ordered hundreds of canapes and arranged towering champagne fountains. My boss, Diane, always said I had a gift for creating perfect, seamless experiences. She loved my calm, detailed nature. I wished my family could see that side of me. During my lunch break, I finalized my personal grocery list. I needed a specific heritage breed pork loin, fresh black truffle, and some chestnut flour. This solitary dinner was my annual gift to myself. It was my one day to cook for the pure love of it, with no stress or expectations. Their mocking texts were just noise I was learning to ignore. Christmas Eve was my favorite time to prepare. My small apartment kitchen was warm and filled with wonderful smells. I toasted spices for the soup and made a sourdough stuffing from my own starter. I was carefully dry brining the pork loin when my phone buzzed. It was my mom. "Just calling to make sure you're okay, sweetie," she said, her voice coated in thick, syrupy pity. "We'll save you a slice of pie." She used the same tone she had when our old dog passed away. I told her I was fantastic and that I was busy cooking. I hung up quickly. The pity was so much worse than the jokes. The jokes meant they were being mean. The pity meant they genuinely believed my life was something to be sorry about. Christmas morning was quiet and beautiful. Soft snow drifted past my window. I put on a playlist of gentle jazz and began my work. I roasted chestnuts for the soup, peeling their warm shells. I rolled out fresh pasta dough for the ravioli. I made a glossy bourbon glaze. The process was slow and peaceful. I set my small table with my single linen napkin, my grandmother's antique silverware, and one tall white candle. I felt a deep sense of calm. This wasn't a sad ritual. It was a sacred one. I was about to enjoy something beautiful that I made with my own hands, in my own peaceful space. Around noon, as the smell of roasting squash and brown butter filled my apartment, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it to find an older gentleman I had seen in the hallway a few times. He looked very apologetic. "I am so terribly sorry to disturb you," he said kindly. "My name is Walter Ellis. I live down the hall in 4B. I simply must ask, what is that incredible aroma? It is absolutely magnificent." I was surprised and flattered. I told him it was just my Christmas dinner. He peeked past me into my tidy, fragrant kitchen. His eyes were not just polite, they were truly impressed. Mr. Ellis didn't leave right away. He asked thoughtful questions about what I was making. He had an old-fashioned, polite way of speaking. "Forgive my curiosity," he said. "I'm a retired writer. Food was always my subject. I haven't encountered an aroma that perfect in a long, long time." He wasn't just making friendly chat. He asked specific questions about my technique for the chestnut soup. I explained how I roasted them first. He nodded in understanding. Before he left, he looked at me and said, "The care you're taking, it's a quiet protest against a very noisy world. Enjoy every single bite." His words stayed with me. A stranger had looked into my kitchen and understood everything. As the afternoon winter light turned blue, I plated my meal. Each item looked perfect. I took one photograph, just for myself, to remember the beauty of it. I sat down and began to eat slowly. The silence in my apartment was not empty. It was full of the taste of good food and the feeling of accomplishment. I thought about Mr. Ellis's phrase, a quiet protest. That was exactly right. This dinner was my protest against their loud pity, their belief that being alone meant being lonely. In that moment, with my perfect meal, I felt completely and totally whole. 2 days after Christmas, I went back to work. Diane called me into her office almost immediately. She had a strange smile on her face. "Amelia," she said. "I just got off the phone with a writer from the Chronicle. A Walter Ellis. He's working on a feature about the best holiday meal in the city, and he wants to feature your Christmas dinner." My hand flew to my mouth. The Chronicle was our most important newspaper. Their holiday food feature was legendary. "He wants to send a photographer to your apartment tonight to take pictures," Diane said, beaming with pride. I told him we would absolutely make it work. I felt like I was dreaming. I called Mr. Ellis to thank him. He explained that his article wasn't about fancy restaurants. It was about the true spirit of holiday cooking. "Your meal, and the intention behind it, is the entire point," he said firmly. I was nervous, but incredibly excited. The photographer came that evening. I recreated my table setting exactly. He took stunning, artistic photos of the food, the candlelight, the single-place setting. Then he asked, "Can we get one wider shot?" to show the setting. I agreed. The photo showed my beautiful little table, and in the background, the rest of my empty dining area. It was elegant, but it clearly showed a table set for only one person. The article was scheduled for the weekend paper on December 30th. I called my parents, my voice shaky with pride. "Mom, a food critic from the Chronicle is writing about my Christmas dinner." There was a long pause. Her response was flat and confused. "That's nice, honey. But why would they write about a dinner for one? Doesn't that seem, well, a little depressing?" The familiar sting came back. They still could only see the aloneness, never the achievement. I hung up, disappointed but not surprised. A text came from Peter. "LOL, the sad singles supper is going viral. Next stop, reality TV." I put my phone away and didn't reply. The morning the article was published, my phone started buzzing at 6 a.m. Friends, coworkers, even people I hadn't spoken to in years were texting me links. The messages were all caps and exclamation points. With trembling fingers, I opened the link. The headline read, "The Solitary Feast, Why the Best Holiday Meal in the City Was Served for One." There was the beautiful photo of my food, and right below it, the wider shot of my table with all the empty chairs around it, soft light falling on their vacant seats. Mr. Ellis's writing took my breath away. He described the scent that pulled him from his apartment, the meticulous care in every step. He wrote, "This was not a meal born from loneliness, but from deep self-respect and culinary passion." In a season deafening with forced cheer and obligation, this quiet dinner was a revolutionary act of personal joy. He called it a masterpiece of tranquility. He never once used my family's cruel phrase, but he addressed it directly. Some might dismiss this as a sad singles supper. To do so would be to miss the point entirely. The article spread like wildfire. The Chronicle shared it on social media, and thousands of people reacted. The comments were filled with people saying, "This is my life, and I love my peaceful holidays, and finally, someone understands." My work email inbox flooded with messages. A well-known local cooking school asked if I would teach a class. An editor from a publishing house asked if I had ever thought about writing a cookbook. The world was celebrating the exact thing my family had spent years mocking. The call from my mother came at noon. Her voice was high and tense. "Amelia, people are sending me this article. Shirley from my bridge club called. Everyone is talking about the empty chairs. How could you embarrass the family like this?" I kept my voice calm. "I didn't mention the family, Mom. The article is about the food and my cooking process." She sputtered, "But the picture. Those empty chairs tell everyone we left you out." For the first time, I heard real shame in her voice. But it wasn't shame for hurting me. It was shame for being publicly seen as people who would do such a thing. My brother Peter called next, and he was furious. My boss read the article at breakfast. He asked if that was my sister with the pitiful dinner party. "Thanks for making me look bad." I replied quietly, "The article says it's not pitiful. It says it's masterful. Maybe your boss should read more carefully." Peter hung up on me. The social backlash they feared was happening. Their precious reputation in their community was cracking. People weren't judging my dinner. They were judging my family's empty chairs. At work, I was treated like a celebrity. Diane had the article printed and framed in the lobby. "This is the best indirect marketing we've ever had," she laughed. She gave me a significant raise and a new title, Lead Experience Coordinator. She wanted me to design a new series of small, ultra-high-end dining events for important clients. My quiet, detailed skill, the thing my family saw as a sign of a lonely life, was now my biggest professional strength. It was launching my career to a place I'd never dreamed of. A week into January, I was invited to be a guest on the local morning show, Sunrise Today. I wore a bright red dress and talked confidently about the beauty of intentional celebration. I demonstrated how to make the chestnut soup from the article. The host called me an inspiration for modern living. I never mentioned my family. I didn't have to. The article and the photo of the empty chairs had told that story for me, more powerfully than I ever could. My parents asked to meet for coffee. They looked tired and older. My dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "We've been getting some comments. Your mother's friends have been asking questions." My mom jumped in, her voice strained. "We weren't trying to be cruel, Amelia. We were concerned. That article paints us as villains." I stirred my latte slowly. "The article is about my cooking," I repeated softly. "If people look at that photo and draw conclusions about you, that's not my doing. That's a result of the choice you made to leave me out." The silence at our small table was heavier than any silence I'd ever experienced in my own apartment. The solo cooking class I taught sold out in under 2 hours. The room was full of all kinds of people, young, old, married, single. We spent the evening laughing, chopping, and learning. The air was full of joy and the smell of good food. Afterward, a woman my age came up to me, her eyes shiny. "Thank you," she whispered, giving me a hug. "My family does the same thing to me. You've made me feel strong and proud, not embarrassed." That moment meant more than any newspaper headline. I was no longer just building a meal. I was building a community. My sister-in-law Lauren sent me a very long email. It was full of excuses and justifications. "We never meant to hurt you. We just thought you'd be more comfortable. We didn't realize you wanted to come." It ended with a forced invitation to a big family dinner in February. It felt less like an apology and more like a command to come back and make everything normal for them again. I wrote back a polite, professional email. "Thank you for thinking of me. Unfortunately, I have prior commitments that weekend." I did not have commitments. But my time was now my own valuable, respected property. The cookbook offer became real. I hired a literary agent. The advance they offered was more than my old yearly salary. We decided to call the book The Solitary Feast, Recipes and Rituals for Celebrating Yourself. Walter Ellis happily agreed to write the foreword. My life was becoming wonderfully, richly full. Not with the loud, chaotic noise of my family's gatherings, but with genuine purpose, deep respect, and real connections that valued me for who I was. In late January, my mother called again. Her voice was different, softer, smaller. "I read the article again," she said quietly. "The whole thing. That man, he described your dinner so beautifully." I waited, saying nothing. She took a shaky breath. I think I misunderstood. I'm sorry we called it sad." It wasn't a full apology for excluding me, and it didn't erase the years of mockery. But it was a start. It was an acknowledgement. "Thank you, Mom," I said simply. The real victory wasn't in her words. It was in the fact that she had finally been forced to see me through someone else's admiring eyes, and what she saw was not something to pity, but something to admire. The final, most public twist came in February. Our city's major annual charity event, the Winter Gala, had a theme: local heroes. The organizing committee, having seen the viral article, contacted me. They asked me to design and prepare the entire menu for the VIP cocktail hour. My family, who bought a table at the gala every year to maintain their social standing, would of course be attending. They would have no choice but to eat my food, prepared under my direction, while the city's most important people praised the brilliant mind behind it. The night of the gala, I wore a crisp black chef's jacket. I moved through the bustling kitchen with a calm confidence, directing my small team. Our canapés were tiny works of art, perfect bites inspired by my Christmas meal. I stepped out briefly to check on the service in the glittering ballroom. I saw my family at their round table near the front. They saw me. I watched as the mayor's wife swept over to them. I could see her gushing, smiling, gesturing toward the food. I saw my parents' faces tighten into strained, uncomfortable smiles. They were being publicly praised for the daughter they had privately dismissed. The revenge was perfect. They had to sit there, chew my food, and say thank you. I did not go over to their table. I returned to my kitchen, my domain of calm control. At the end of the night, the gala chairperson called me out onto the stage. She presented me with a bouquet and thanked me loudly for my extraordinary contribution. The applause was a roaring wave of sound. I looked out from the stage, across the sea of sequins and suits. My family was clapping, their faces a confusing mix of pride, shame, and dawning understanding. I didn't need to decipher it. The empty chairs in that newspaper photo had already told the whole story. They spoke of absence, but also of a powerful, quiet presence, my own. Now, those chairs were filled with something new: respect, opportunity, and a future I built alone, with my own two hands. The next Christmas, my table would still be set for one. But now it would be a choice celebrated by the world, not a circumstance pitted by my family. And in that simple fact, I found a peace and a power that no holiday noise could ever break.